Mark Kimmitt, he is the former Assistant Secretary of State for Political and Military Affairs. Mark, thank you very much, as always, for coming on the NewsHour. We really appreciate this. Diplomatically first, Antony Blinken, he's been here, there and everywhere as part of his shuttle diplomacy. What do you read into what's going on behind the scenes diplomatically?
Well, diplomatically, it's quite clear that the United States is trying to find some formula for a humanitarian pause, if not a ceasefire, in order to try to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza, which Hamas, by their action, has denied. So hopefully it can be a situation where through Egypt and the Egyptian government, aid can get in, but it's going to take the Hamas military wing and the Hamas political leadership in Doha to make some concessions, and they need to quit weaponizing their civilians.
And we hear reports that the director of the CIA has been in the region trying to apply some pressure. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, obviously, he wouldn't be the director of the CIA if he was telling everybody what he was up to. But I would certainly hope that he was in the region for the purposes of giving better intelligence and better information to the Israelis to provide better insights on which are legitimate targets, legitimate military targets, and also was there to share with you and the governments of the region his intelligence assessment on the actions of outside actors such as Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, primarily Iranian-backed militias that are all trying to take advantage of this situation for their own means. He's there to give the Israelis the information they need to fight a legitimate warfare and to also provide information to keep others out of the fight.
Yeah, and how about the relation between Washington and Tel Aviv at the moment? Benjamin Netanyahu's predecessor, Ehud Barak, said this: we're heading towards friction with the Americans about the offensive within the next 2 or 3 weeks, or probably less. Do you suspect Washington's patience with Israel is fraying?
Well, I don't think so, but I do know that Washington has a domestic constituency that is starting to turn against this war, wants to see a humanitarian pause, wants to see an end to the conflict, which is in many ways manufactured by the media. But having said all of that, I think that at this point, the unflinching, unyielding approach that the Israelis are taking is being challenged by the United States, who wants to see a little more flexibility in terms of accelerating the end of this, perhaps bringing in humanitarian pause, perhaps bringing in a ceasefire, so that there's time and space to do the diplomatic negotiations which will solve the situation.
Yeah, and Israel's their moves in Gaza has also led to international pressure, international condemnation in some parts over the rising civilian death toll, and the lack of a plan for what happens after they leave Gaza, once the fighting is over. I mean, does Israel's window of legitimacy to continue to prosecute this war appear to be closing?
Well, there certainly is some pressure from the outside, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the world seems to focus on Israel as the aggressor. In fact, Israel was attacked. Israel's citizens were slaughtered. Israel has a legitimate national security interest in defending its border. I don't hear the same criticism towards Hamas, which is putting their military capabilities inside the hospitals, using their citizens as human shields, denying them the right to leave Gaza City. So I remain a bit jaundiced about this until I see a better criticism that is more fair to both sides of the argument. But as long as we see the pictures as we're seeing on the screen right now, there is complicity, in fact, a majority of complicity on the part of Hamas that is allowing this to happen to people who they have the right and the responsibility to govern.
Mark, we really thank you for your analysis on this one. Mark Kimmitt there, former Assistant Secretary of State, joining us on the NewsHour. Thank you.